You want to know my record? So shout out to Wale. We talking about the year 2011 when I booked King of Diamonds with no money. I had a commercial running on 99 Point Jams. When I was bubbling with Maybach Music, and what we was doing was promoting something called Maybach Music Jamaica, which you could, go on YouTube and you can see was a valid thing, and you can see that Zion Lexx created it. I booked King of Diamonds for free. You know what I saw that night in King of Diamonds, the strip club? I saw dudes walk through with sparklers and women getting fucked shortly thereafter. If you could get fucked because a guy bought some bottles, something is mathematically wrong. If in your wisdom you come from a culture that women are considered gods, but all it takes is a man pulling out, no disrespect to Brother Polight, 10,000 in his pocket, 30,000 in his right pocket, and because he pulled out a total of 40,000, you should give him something sacred that none of that motherfucking money could buy. What sense does that make? How many people we know fuck somebody and still don't know their last name? How many people we know with a body count that can't give you the whole person's, I can't say his age, I don't know his birthday, I don't know his first name, I don't know his mama's name. This is not African spirituality. So at that point, sister, he raped you. You raped. He raped you of your culture when you don't know his birthday before he fucked you. He raped you of your spirituality if he don't know your mama's name before you gave him your womb. He raped you of everything that makes you the divinity that you spoke of if he don't know nothing about you. Look at the tears coming from her because we speak in truth right now. So in the word for God, you have a seated deity with a beard. But the word for woman, the determinative for woman, looks exactly like it, minus the beard. So the concept that you learn is, from the Kemetic perspective, the closest idea to God was a woman giving birth. The closest idea to God was the creation of life, which we know man is a co-conspirator, or he's a partner, but we know the bottom line is it's coming through the womb of a woman. Which is why when we speak of the netchert, which is the female aspect of the netter, the term for God. When you speak of the netchert, known as Orset, what's her idea? What's her symbol? The throne. Below her is a bread loaf which gives you a tea, and that's also feminine. But the idea is that we can't even speak of natural kingship unless we're putting women first. Because women are the ones that dictate kingship. For instance, people say things like the Bible allows or fosters the idea that a woman can be raped. You've heard this before, Deuteronomy chapter 22. The Bible fosters, right, the Bible fosters, some people say that a Bible, so I'm going to use what he's saying. I was starting to say some people, but he seemed to be familiar with it. Right, but because he's familiar with it, I'm going to say, we're going to work with what Brother Sonetta is saying. So according to Brother Sonetta, the King James Bible seems to be describing in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 22 that it's okay to rape a woman, and if you are able to dominate her physically, watch my arm as I'm talking, I'm also flexing my arm, if you're able to dominate her physically, then she's yours, regardless of whether or not she wants to be yours. That's so stupid and incorrect. But watch this, there's a wisdom and a science to the way it's articulated in the scriptures, and I'm going to make it make sense. Watch this. So the Bible says, if a man finds a virgin woman in the field, takes hold of her and grasp her and lay with her, and they are discovered, he shall go to the father of the woman, pay 50 shekels to the father, and he cannot divorce her for the rest of the days of his life. She shall remain his wife eternally. So people say, wait, the Bible just said, if he grab her, take hold of her, and have sex with her, she his wife. All he got to do is pay $50. So the Bible's saying, if I could overpower a woman, she mine. That's not what it's saying. Follow the language and understand the concept. African spirituality always is given in abstraction. There's always an enigma. Why? People who speak enigmatically tend to be people who are deep thinkers. People who actually have something to say. People who are surface level when they speak usually have nothing to say. Watch how it makes sense. The Bible says, if a man finds a woman, grasp her and takes hold of her, and they are discovered, he can't divorce her. The key words are, they are discovered. If it's actually rape, hold on, listen carefully. Hold on, no problem. Listen, if he actually grabbed her, if he actually raped her, I'm gonna wait till y'all done, because what I gotta say is very eloquent, minus the interruption. So go ahead. So watch this. The very vernacular that's being employed is being employed and being positioned for a reason. The Bible considers that a woman who is born or raised in the home of her parents, if you're having sex with her and you're not married to her, is as if you raped her. She's not being raped, the woman in the story, and that's what most people miss. Because the Bible says, and if they are discovered. If she was raped, there's only one person hiding, that's the man. But the Bible says, and if they are discovered, that means they both are keeping something a secret, which means the Bible is saying the woman was implicit in the action. But the Bible is using the language of rape, because what the Bible is saying, if you're laying with a woman while she's in the household of her parents and you haven't presented to her parents that you have interest in her, then it is as if you have raped the woman. That's why the language is, if a man grasp her and hold her. The Bible's not promoting the idea that a man could rape a woman. If that's the case, you got to wipe it with your ass, because that's what it could only be useful for. But hold on, let me finish. The bottom line is, if you understand the vernacular in its proper context, what the Bible is clearly saying is that sex within a proper perspective is something that will be biblically co-signed. But sex outside of that context is something that will always be condemned. So if a woman is living in her parents' home, remember, all of this new age jargon, I'm independent, I'm on my own. People go out to college and they get their own house, so I don't got to live by your rules, mama, no more. That's not the ancient way. In African culture and African societies, the moment that you get married is the moment that you lose that protective covering, where you become your own covering, as it were. But until that moment occurs, you still are responsible for your parents, and your parents are still responsible for you. So that means in our culture, if you're having sex without the cosign of your parents, the man is considered as if he raped you. That's the thing that people are not paying attention to. So it's easy to open the Bible and say, oh, he laid hold of her, he grabbed her. That's what it's saying. But it just shows the ignorance of people looking into a text that they have no clue of. Because if you understood the cultural context, which anytime you're reading into a people's culture and a people's history, you have to consider what's called cultural context. So the cultural context of the statement is that sex while you're under your parents' roof is something that we do not play in African society, as we all know.
Zion, what does the word grab means in Hebrew?
Right. So I'm glad he pointed that out, because what he's doing is emphasizing my point. So the Bible says kazak. So the man will kazak the woman, which means to physically overpower her. Kazak is the Hebrew word for strength. But here's my point. And this is the key word most people don't pay attention to, because common sense is not so common. The Bible says, key phrase, and they are discovered. If a man lays hold with a woman and grasp her and lies with her, and they are discovered, then he shall pay 50 shekels. Why does it say, and they are discovered? The only person that's guilty if it's rape is the man. It says they are discovered because the Bible is intimating that the woman was implicit in the act. She wanted to have sex. This is not a situation of real rape, but the Bible considers it rape because you're having sex under your parents' household and you're not doing things the African way. The African way is that if you love me so much, you could tell my parents that you love me. If you love me so much, think about this. Most of us in this room right now is between ages 20s and our 30s. How many people we know fuck somebody and still don't know their last name? How many people we know with a body count that can't give you the whole person's, I can't say his age, I don't know his birthday, I don't know his first name, I don't know his mama's name. This is not African spirituality. So at that point, sister, he raped you. You raped. He raped you of your culture when you don't know his birthday before he fucked you. He raped you of your spirituality if he don't know your mama's name before you gave him your womb. He raped you of everything that makes you the divinity that you spoke of if he don't know nothing about you? Look at the tears coming from her because we speaking truth right now.
Here's a question. In America, if I grabbed a woman, right, aggressively, and I had got discovered having sex with her, right, I would have to pay a debt to society in the form of incarceration, right? Is that a metaphor for 50 shekels in the past? So I'm just saying, is there another way to look at it? Or are there some other verses there that are stipulating the things that Brother Zion is saying? Or can we just say there's probably two ways to look at it? That's all I want to know. Because if I get discovered grabbing some fucking woman and having sex with her, if I aggressively grab her, because we can say the woman is implicit in the act, right? But I don't know where it says that at.
Right. So let me say this. One thing that was crucial to his rebuttal that I actually touched on is a phrase that I use: cultural context. Brother Polight said, "Well, in America, if I grab a woman, I can catch a charge. If I grab a woman, that can be construed as rape. So I don't know. How is this to be interpreted?" Remember, when I speak, I got a very, very long catalog, by the way. You could just type in the name Zion, L-E, and everything else comes up. So whenever I speak, it's always very, very meticulous. It's always straight to the point, and it's always very orchestrated in a way that you know exactly what I'm giving you is exactly what it is. What I said very keenly is cultural context. So American culture is different than biblical culture, or different than the culture of the people of the Bible, quote unquote, because American culture allows for the things that the Bible clearly condemns. So those are two different cultural civilizations, and obviously two different cultural contexts. So watch this. In the Torah, there's a story that's presented that's going to validate everything I'm saying right now. And even Brother Polight knows this story, so watch how it comes full circle. There's a woman by the name of Dinah. She's the sister of the 12 sons, the 12 tribes of Israel in the book of Genesis. The Bible says that she goes out to see the daughters of the land. And then a prince in the land of Canaan by the name of Shechem, he finds her and lays with her and grabs hold of her. And the two become married. And then it says the brothers went and slew every man of the city because he had humbled their sister. Why did they do that? The Bible first and foremost tells you that Dinah was with it. She liked Shechem. But the brothers considered it as if Shechem raped her, because Shechem never came to the father, never came to the mother. So that means even in the Bible's teachings which precede the law that was given, the teaching is demonstrated before that edict was given on Mount Sinai. Because Genesis naturally comes before Exodus, the way that the Bible plays out. So we have a story in the Bible that validates that if you are living in your parents' home and you're having sex out of marriage, the parents in our culture regarded it as rape. And when I say rape, I don't mean rape in the sense that a man is forcing a woman, but you have to understand what rape is, even on a deeper conceptual level. Because when you're raping someone, you're taking something sacred from them, or you're not. As a woman, when you are raped, one thing that is universal, women feel that there is something sacred that was robbed in that moment. There was something sacred that was stolen in that moment of time. What the Bible is showing you is, even if you are implicit, woman, even if you want to have this man within you, if you don't do it the right way, he is robbing you of something sacred. He is robbing you of something that is divine. He is robbing you of the very divinity that you know you possess. So this is a high cultural teaching, and until we return to those types of morals and edicts, you're going to have people getting fucked after the club. How many women you know seen a brother walk through the club, and I'm talking real. Listen, you want to know my record? So shout out to Wale. We talking about the year 2011 when I booked King of Diamonds with no money. I had a commercial running on 99 Point Jams. Shout out to my sister Holywood on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook. She's Rick Ross's assistant manager. When I was bubbling with Maybach Music, and what we was doing was promoting something called Maybach Music Jamaica, which you could, go on YouTube and you can see was a valid thing, and you can see that Zion Lexx created it. I booked King of Diamonds for free. You know what I saw that night in King of Diamonds, the strip club? I saw dudes walk through with sparklers and women getting fucked shortly thereafter. If you could get fucked because a guy bought some bottles, something is mathematically wrong. Especially if in your wisdom, you come from a culture where a woman is deified. If in your wisdom you come from a culture that women are considered gods. But all it takes is a man pulling out, no disrespect to Brother Polight, 10,000 in his pocket, 30,000 in his right pocket, and because he pulled out a total of 40,000, you should give him something sacred that none of that motherfucking money could buy. What sense does that make? And I'm handing my.
I'm asking for clarity. So the answer to the question where we didn't know if we was in Big Mama's house or Big Papa's house or if they're still together, the answer to if this was a law that you had to talk to parents first, otherwise it's considered rape. We're in a conundrum now because the answer to that question deferred our attention to another scenario. And now for the new scenario that he brought up, to answer that question, I have the same question now. Does that new scenario have any supporting verses that say, hey, if you don't meet the parents, it's considered rape? Because now there's two scenarios. I have the same question. And I still want to know for the first scenario, why are we using this other scenario as if it's corroborating testimony for the first one? I don't see the connection whatsoever. Are we using the same words in Hebrew that were used in the first passage that are used in the next one? Are we looking at humble and then humble is the same word that we're using for strength? Or I just want to know. When the question for the first scenario was, is it a matter of being in mommy and daddy's house and someone's having sex in the house? Is it a matter of, hey, if you didn't meet the mother and father, it's considered rape for you to have sex, and the implication is on the man and the woman is implicit? I don't know where any of that information comes from other than the subjective aspect of Brother Zion's conceptual undertakings, right? And then when we get to the answering of that question, we don't exactly deal with that verse. We go, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to this verse not down the block. We're actually going to catch a flight, right? Because we're going to catch a flight and we're going to now discuss this narrative. And then now I still have the same question for the first one. So now I have the same question for both. So I just want to know what's actually going on. Where does it say that you have to know the woman's family, and if you don't and you have sex with her, it's considered rape? And that, yes, so go ahead, baby, go ahead, do what you gotta do.
This is actually good. You guys have never discussed this.
Yeah, we never,
And I think you
we never chill.
You talk to GMS.
Hey, all I wanted to know is where in the first scenario is the official decree or the assertion that if a man doesn't know the woman's parents, that it is considered rape, and that the man bears the burden of punishment and the woman is considered to be implicit of it? And then in the second scenario, which was brought up to corroborate the first scenario, which I believe was a testament to the fact that we were lacking in information, supporting evidence. We were probably lacking in supporting evidence for the first scenario, so we went to go to a second one. And that's legal. So I'm not disrespecting them. That's legal. But then even in the second scenario, I wonder, are they in the house? And I only ask these questions because of things that were said. And are they in the house of the parent when it takes place? It's just a question because that could be irrelevant or not. Because before I could debate anything, I first have to beseech understanding. So this is more me getting clarity than it is an attack. When I get clarity, then I could determine if I should debate or not.
In other words, we haven't debated. We haven't began debating.
Yeah, because this might not even be a debate.
We just feeling the temperature.
You feel what I'm saying? One of us get caught lacking, it's gonna go down. Word. So I just want to know, in the second scenario that's being used to corroborate the first one, which is still legal, I'm not an ignorant man, do we have the placement of them being in the house when the sex taking place? And even if they're not, I could accept that. Can we find out if it's true that if a man doesn't know meets the woman's parents, that the man bears the burden of being accused of rape, and there's a punishment there, and the woman is just merely considered to be implicit in it? These are the questions that I have. I just want to understand, where's this at? But I want to make it clear, I love the thinking. I love the concept. I'm appreciative. I think it's tremendously dope. You know, I'm with it. I just want to know that this is what they actually meant, well, beyond a reasonable doubt, or if it is subjective to the extent that it may not be true, but it's a hell of an understanding, because I could accept that as well if that's what's being asserted.
So first and foremost, the inquiry is amazing, because we don't arrive at truth until we first have inquiry. We don't arrive at wisdom until we first have questions raised. So let me first say this. Your line of questioning is on point. The only thing that I will question, the only thing that I will tackle is this. You asked a question that does necessitate some assumptions. And what I mean by that is, you said, can we find a clear and concise verse in the Bible that says that rape in this context is simply an act or a demonstration of a disrespect to the parents and not actually physical rape? Where in the Bible can we find that? And here's the issue with that. No matter where you go in African spirituality, stories are told mainly through abstraction and enigma. So, for instance, when you go into the weighing of the heart ceremony in the Runu Pert Hemaru, there is no text that you can go to prior in that text or in the Amduat, the Book of Gates, which can describe for you what you're going to garner or gather from the weighing of the heart. But you do know that there's something logical when you're interpreting literature. There's something that we can gather, or we can what we call infer. Inference is something that is foreign to the illogical mind or the ungifted mind. But to people that are gifted, we know that things can be inferred all the time. So what we're saying is, while Brother Polight, what he's harping on is true. You can't find a single verse in the Bible that says, when it says that a man is grasping hold on her, that's not physical rape. There is no verse that says that that's not physical rape. But what I'm saying is, the inference is there when you look at the word "they are discovered." Because when you say they, you talk about two people. Two people means that one person is not implicit alone. There are more than one co-conspirators. If there's more than one co-conspirator and we're talking about rape, then we're no longer talking about rape. So now you have to question, then why does the Bible describe the act as rape if we're not talking about rape? And here goes back to African culture and African spirituality. It's a great disrespect to your parents and the household if you're having sex while you're still in your parents' household. And he raised a great question when he said, well, how do we know if she was in the house? Did the sex take place in the parents' house? In the dude's house? In a field somewhere? How do we know? Well, let's go back to African spirituality, because his questions arise from a Western experience. Because it's in Western tradition that people go and leave their parents' home without being married. That's not African tradition. In African tradition, let me finish my thoughts. In African tradition, you don't leave your home until you're married. So the first thing we got to correct is the Western standpoint. Because the Western standpoint is all the questions he just asked. He said, how do we know where it's taking place? Well, we're talking about something that's ancient. We're talking about something that's reflective of African spirituality. In African spirituality, you're not leaving your home unless you're married. We're not pushing our women or our men out on the fly and saying, go, God be with you. No, we're saying that woman and man comprise what we term the image of God. And if you're to be divine, you need to be together as one. So I'm not going to send a woman out alone. I'm not going to send a man out alone. The two must go out together. So in speaking to those points, what we first must understand is the African foundation within the story. It doesn't matter where it took place. The reality is, in our society, in days of old, unlike today, in Western tradition, if a woman is not married, she's still in her parents' home. That's not Western tradition, because in Western tradition, she turns 18 and she goes off to Syracuse University and she's in a dorm. In Western tradition, she turns 18 and she got a job with Microsoft and she got her own studio apartment in Brooklyn, in Sunset. So in touching that last point, let me say this: it doesn't matter where it took place. Once you understand the foundation of the story, in our tradition, a woman is considered under her parents until she's married. So if anything is happening before then the man has simply raped her.
So, long story short, and let me say this: the concept of the house being significant and of interest in my question doesn't come from my Western experience. It comes from him asserting the word house in the equation, because I didn't hear the word house in the verse. I didn't hear house in that verse, and I didn't hear it in the other verse. So these are his inferences. And so my original question was, this sounds subjective. Is it also safe to conclude that I can interpret that verse, because he's using the word inference, right? Is it safe that someone else can read that same verse and say, hey, this is rape and those two people were discovered, a fine had to be paid, and guess what? They may be undermining the woman to an extent where the man bears the burden of responsibility because we don't expect much of the woman. Now, we are to suppose that these are African peoples, and then I have to say Africa's a whole continent, right? Made up, it's the largest continent on planet Earth. Everybody doesn't make the same subscriptions, so that's kind of like a misnomer almost, right? It's Africa, right? Africa, but there's Congo, there's Equatorial Guinea, there's Sudan, there's Kush, there's Ethiopia, there's, Egypt. We can keep going on, right? So now I have to announce it. Which group of Africans are you saying these people are who make sure that the children or the daughter has to be of this household, and if they do anything prematurely as far as sex is concerned, it's considered rape? Because now there's more questions I have, and the reason why these questions are important is because he's making inferences, okay, and that's okay. My question was, I feel that this is a subjective undertaking, and all I merely wanted to know if it was legal for it to be interpreted another way other than the way he has interpreted, and I've offered an actual opportunity to see it a different way. So what we can conclude is that no, the things that I asked for are not written there. So we don't have evidence of anything that he's saying that's actually true. We only can infer that based on the thinking that these are African peoples that we're talking about, and they have a certain culture. But then the next question is, which group of Africans are you talking about? Because not all Africans believe in what you're talking about now. So now there's another question going on here. So you see, I ain't got no debate in me. I just got questions because this thing sounds so deep, I'm ready to live my life by it.